Hello, this is David Morgan from themorganreport.com, and this will be my presentation for the International Precious Metals and Commodity Show. And before I start, I would like to thank Frank and Jan, who have supported me in my work for so many years and really being vital to getting my information out to the German audience. So with that, let me start the presentation. So for those that speak English or can read English, the website is themorganreport.com, and I have been writing in the precious metals and resource sector for many, many years, and I'm fairly well known in Germany. And as I said a moment ago, this is for the International Precious Metals and Commodity Show, October 2020. And obviously for all of us, this is a virtual presentation. And I will look forward to the day when I am able to travel again and have a live audience. I'll start with the silver discussion. I'm going to start with this basic information. It's basic to me. It may be brand new to you. You may know some of it. You may know all of it. And then I'm going to move into the website and the kind of information you can get for free. And then I will ask Jan, after this presentation is over and the event is coming to a close, or after it's closed, if he wants, he could take some amount of questions up to, I don't know, I'll limit it to say 20 questions. And he can forward those to me, and I'll make a separate video for those that wish to receive it on questions that either my discussion brought up for you, or general questions that just came to you during the other events that you think I might be able to answer or help you with. So with that, let's move on. I believe this is the final leg of this precious metals market, and I also believe it will set a record. And the reason I say that with authority is because it's happened so many times in the past in almost all markets. The final leg of any market, be it the stock market, the housing market, the technology boom, the Japanese stock market, you name it, the last part of that market is when you really get a lot of power, meaning lots and lots of buying pressure, moving the price higher and higher and higher. And then it usually shoots up, and then it most of the time collapses. Not collapses like instantly, but normally it does go up very high and then runs out of buyers or buying power. And that's the top. And to pick those tops is extremely difficult. And so only amateurs are looking to get the very top tick of a stock or a commodity or the price of silver or gold or whatever it is. But when you are in that leg, it's hard not to get caught up in the mania of it. So this is a look at how undervalued silver is to gold. Silver is to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's also it's very cheap relative to gold, and actually relative to anything. This is a chart I use often in my lectures. This is from shadowstats.com. John Williams. John and I are, I guess we could say, friends or friendly. I've talked to him several times, and he does great work. And this is what silver would sell for in today's dollars, if and only if we use the same inflation measurements that we used in 1980. But those of you probably are well aware that the United States government and other governments have basically fixed the data in their favor. So they changed how they measure inflation. They take out two things that are vitally important for human existence. Food. Well, food's very important to the inflation thing. We all eat. And then energy. And energy is the most important commodity that exists for the human being, because without energy, nothing happens. So they take those out, and then they call it, the inflation, which is really preposterous. Most that are listening to this understand that or know about it, but there's always new people that are like just beginning to learn how corrupt the system has become and how disingenuous is just a fancy word for basically lying, the whole system has become. So this is the last bull market at the top and the one that we're in now. And we haven't had that last leg up, which is what I keep emphasizing, is the last leg is where you get the most profit, and it happens rather quickly. And you see that was true in 1970. If you go from 72 to the top in 1980, you're looking at the last 8 years. And from 1972, it took about 2 years to go from roughly $1.50 all the way to $5. And then it stayed at 5 for years, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. And only in 1979, it reached $6. So I've said this over and over, and this is just the idea that 90% of the move comes in the last 10% of the time. I want to stop here and clarify what that means. It doesn't mean that 90% comes in the last 10% of the time, although I'm going to prove to you in the last bull market that's pretty close to what happened. The idea is what I said at the beginning of this presentation, which is the biggest part of the move is ahead of us, and it doesn't take much time. So if you think that buying silver at the United States price of $30 sounds high, it might. But it's nothing, in my view, my opinion, my studied opinion, of what will happen during the next few years to the price of the precious metals. I include gold in that, but I do believe that silver will outperform gold for a variety of reasons. So the bull market last time was from really $1.30 to $50, and that total move was about $48, and 42 of those dollars came in the last 13 months of a 180-month move. So if you do the simple arithmetic, it comes out 87.5%. We'll round it up to 90% in 13 months, and I can't spell months, sorry, divided by 187%. So we had about 90% of the move in the last 7% of the time, or 90% in the last 10% of the time. It's a pretty good idea. So if in 1979, $6 was an all-time high for silver in that time frame, in 1979, January. All-time high, 6. But that's $6 in 1979 dollars, which we just saw from John Williams. You'd have to multiply 50 by 12 to get to 600. And so if you took that number of 6 and multiply by 12, you'd be at $72 right now. Of course, we're not. But just giving you the idea of how undervalued silver is at this point in time. So that was an 800% gain in 1 year. And now I want to talk a little bit about the blockchain. And I believe that you will see more and more blockchain currency or cryptocurrencies that are backed by precious metals. And you will see a lot of other things, of course, lumber and real estate and maybe oil and, a lot of things. But the ones that are married to the precious metals probably have the greatest chance for success because the currency crisis globally will continue, where more and more people wake up to the fact that these currencies, these governments are failing, and we need to get out and into something we trust. And nothing on the monetary sphere is more trusted than the precious metals. They have 1,000 and thousands and thousands of years reputation for being held as valuable by human beings throughout the centuries, throughout thousands of years, millennia, across all kinds of political schemes and national borders and, inflations, depressions, everything. So it's very important to know that the odds are highly favorable to the precious metals, even in this highly technological era. And if you can marry the precious metals with something that's very much in vogue and most likely going to continue to be the monetary way to settle transactions, which means digitally, most likely using your phone or an electronic means of some sort, then you can see where the potential is with the marriage of precious metals and the digital blockchain methodology. So I think it is taking place. I think it'll continue. And we asked the question, is it possible that the next leg up in the crypto world will be led by asset-backed cryptocurrencies? This is a program that I am affiliated with, so beware that I have some investment here. Not a huge amount, but enough to where I obviously watch it and I care about it. This is called LODE, LODE, for like the mother lode. And this is a cryptocurrency that is asset-backed by both silver and gold. Initially, it was silver only. As time went on, it's now backed by gold. And they aim it the world's first digital silver-gold-backed monetary system using the blockchain protocol to enable the creation of a tokenized utility asset representing a unique relationship of investment-grade silver and gold. Just a fancy way of saying that, hey, we've got a crypto-based system backed by physical metal, and you can take that metal or you can exchange it. And so we all know, as I said a moment ago, that gold and silver are historic methods of holding value. And now you can spend it quite easily by having it on the blockchain. And this is one of several programs that allow you to do that. We call it the world's first digital silver and gold monetary system. We do have it right now available. I just did it myself about 3 weeks ago, where I have a digital Visa card. It's not a hard plastic card. It's just the numbers that I could use on an internet transaction. I wouldn't be able to walk in with those 16 numbers and the date and the CVC code and buy anything in a Starbucks or in a restaurant or whatever. But we are moving from that platform, which is a data-based one, digital only, to a hard plastic card that you could use for transactions used in an ATM and that type of thing. So this is a very robust system once it's fully completed, and I believe more and more people will be wanting to learn more about this program. It's tied with Syscoin and Ethereum. We had a lot of injection from investors in Europe, in euros, and we have more interest all the time. So it's something to look into. I look at it as an adjunct to having physical gold and silver, an adjunct to maybe having some mining shares. It's something to have in your toolkit. It's something that you might want that you can use from time to time, or you might get used to using it for your small bills like gasoline, restaurants, maybe grocery shopping, that type of thing. But I wouldn't consider this to be a primary investment. But it is something, again, I think that a lot of people, especially younger people, might want to take a look at and get to know a little better. We call it the digital money of the future. We all know that the banks are moving to the digital currency. And why not have one that's backed by physical metal that you can transact with? So the next step would be to visit the website, of course. I do have different services, and that's what the report looks like. And let me go on from here. All right, now I'm on the landing page, which is in English, of course, and it is themorganreport.com. And if you read English, you can get our free information just by putting your first name in here and then giving us an email. You click join. We'll mail you an email. You can connect with us, and we will put you on our mailing list. What's important for the English speakers is primarily the blog, which you just click the blog, and you see all of these interviews that I do all the time. I'm usually doing 2, 3, 4 a week, and they're very easy to access. You just can see them all here, and you can just click on it. When you click on it, it brings it up to full scale. We usually have a bit of a write-up about it. So that one, you scroll down to where you see the arrow, and then you can just click it and play the video. And again, if I'm going to backtrack, you'll see all these videos. This one I just did very recently with David Lynn from Kitco. This is one that I did slightly before that. This is what I do every week. I call it the Weekly Perspective. This is something that it's my podcast. It's just me usually. Sometimes I do interviews, but most of the time I just review what's taking place during the week. And I talk about it, and I show the data. I show the news sources. I show you where I'm getting the information. If I'm just talking, I'll tell you it's my opinion. And then I usually wrap up with the precious metals at the end of this. I try to keep these down to about 15 minutes. You can see here, if you're watching, it's about 14 minutes on this one. So I know people are busy, and I know their attention spans are not really very long. So I try to make it where it's useful, but doesn't take much of your time. So that's part of it. The other part is about social media. So I'm way up here at the very top with this rather thin black line where it says is a global takeover. It starts to change here. It talks about, it's basically a rotating icon here that talks about different videos that I just showed you. You could click that, but that's the best place is just to go down, read what it is, and see if you want to watch it or not. But what I want to show is over here at the right. So there's our YouTube channel, our Twitter feed, our LinkedIn presence, our Facebook presence, a site map, and over here you can search the site. So right now, if you just click the YouTube channel, you'll get a pop-up that will start playing right away. This is a bunch of interviews that I've done over the years. We put them together, just kind of a promo. And of course, again, it'll take you right back to the website. And here you see the videos again in a different format on our YouTube channel. One thing I like to point out on the YouTube channel is not just the fact that these videos are here, but I like the community button here. So if you press the community button, what you'll find is some videos that I watch that I think are extremely important for everybody to see. Normally, this is for people that have some time on the weekends that maybe they would like to see what I'm worried about or thinking about or what I think is worth your time. This has to do with the food situation I've been talking about in the weekly perspective for a very long time. This talks about what's going on with James Corbett, the CorbettReport.com. Corbett's one of the best intellects I know of. Straight shooter, truth teller, very good. He may not be on the YouTube platform for very long. I don't post all of his stuff up here, but he's a good one to watch. So this just gives you an overview. I just want to make sure that you see what is on the YouTube channel that you wouldn't get unless I told you about it or you're familiar with, different parts of YouTube. So that's it. We've got 32,000 subscribers, which is not that big, but it's big enough. Now up here is the Twitter. So if you click the Twitter feed, you'll see my Twitter is not the Morgan Report. My Twitter handle is @SilverGuru22. But if you type in David Morgan Twitter, you'll probably find me. But the Twitter handle, again, is @SilverGuru22. Now, for people that want to look at the news all the time as far as what's going on, you might consider looking at my Twitter feed or not. It's up to you. For those that are very interested in it, I post myself. I have a few people that have access to my account, but I will post what I think is very pertinent, mostly to the metals, but sometimes, very seldom politics, but once in a while, politics or anything else. Again, it's usually precious metals based, or maybe something that's, again, pertinent to what's going on. So you can see a lot of the posts that I've made here very recently. Here's one that I'd like to bring to your attention. This is from David Smith, that's worked with me for years. And this one is one of the most important articles, I think, that you're going to see in this arena. And David and I actually worked on this together, and here's what we came up with. So he calls it the Silver's Coming Double Trigger Shotgun Price Explosion. So what is that all about? Double trigger. So he starts off here talking about, even in the competitive hunting and shooting community, very few know about an arcane rifle known as a double trigger shotgun. This was an early days design with the triggers located inside the trigger guard back to front. It was possible to press both triggers at once, causing a double discharge. Though this essay is not about shotguns, but rather silver, the above concept provides a perfect analogy for what I believe is in store, a double discharge for both silver demand and price in a reasonably near future. More than gold, silver is vulnerable to supply shortages due to its critical role in our high-tech society. Consider the emerging technology of 5G phones. Most phones on the market are not equipped to handle 5G technology, but as the global trend shifts toward integrating 5G infrastructures, it will not be long before the new phones are produced to accommodate it. I did the math on it, and the math is about 88 million ounces to build out if everyone replaced their phone right now with a 5G phone. Is that going to happen? Maybe over time, not instantly, of course, but it still represents 88 million ounces, and there's very little silver in any given cell phone, but there's billions of cell phones, as we all know. So as much as you hear the gold story, it's truly silver that keeps the economy running. Oil may be far the most important, more important than silver, but it does not negate the fact that we need silver to continue to operate in today's world. The banking system cannot run without computers, and silver is in their computers. We cannot exchange information without silver, as it's required for all communications, landline or wireless. So at some point, we think that the industrial users' demand will continue, even though less than it is now. It's projected to be 10% less demand in 2020 due to the CV than it was in 2019, but there's still a pretty steady demand in the industry. And what we see coming is that the industrial users, with a variety of futures metal supply, are now taking positions in mining producers to assure these needs. Now, this is true of some companies. Sumitomo has got a relationship with Avino Silver and have had it for years because they want to get it direct from the mine. They don't want to be cut short. They don't want to have to go through a broker-dealer. They don't want to have to go through a bank. They don't have to go through a bullion bank. They don't have to do anything. They pay with the mine, and they get it direct from the mine. This is something that you will see more and more in the future, I think. I'm pretty sure, but time will tell if I'm correct or not. The primary silver producer universe of less than 2 dozen, that's how many real actual silver mines there are. If a company like Apple decided to swallow them all up, it would be less than a blip on its bottom line. So in other words, there's so much money in the stock market in some of these companies, such as Apple, that they could buy up all the silver mining stocks or companies, and it'd hardly budge the amount of cash that they have. I mean, they've got so much cash, and a lot of these companies, and that may be somewhat of an exaggeration. But I think you get the idea that, again, that silver is very undervalued, and companies like Apple have a lot of cash, and they need silver to do business. So what's going to happen? So David talks about lessons from the Palladium Market. And in 2001, a rumor that Russia, producer of most of the world's palladium, might stop producing, caused Ford Motor Company to aggressively stockpile palladium, and it shot up to $1,100 an ounce. Soon after that, Russia started exporting again, and it dropped back down to $140 an ounce. Now, for the first time in decades, monetary demand is starting to exceed that of industry. Normally, monetary demand is about 10% of the total silver market, and industrial demand is about 50% of the total silver market. So if you have industrial demand at 50% of the silver market, this is annually, per year, and you have monetary demand at 50%, that leaves no silver available for jewelry or silverware. And they're still producing silver jewelry, and they're still producing silverware. And those are fairly decent markets, actually, believe it or not. So when you get a lot of monetary demand, it drives the price higher, which, of course, is what we have seen this year. This year, 2020, has seen more silver bought as money, investment, safe haven, or hard assets and then is used in industry. And we're just warming up for the final round or the most significant move into things of value that the world has ever witnessed. Now, you may or may not agree with that, but that's the trend. The trend is fear, unfortunately, fear of what these governments are doing, fear of whether or not their currencies will be valuable in the future, fear of whether or not there's enough food supply, fear of the repercussions if you're not aligned with the particular political perspective or point of view. A lot of things are out there, and they seem to be trending in the more entropy, and entropy is just a word for disorder. The more something lives in biology, the more entropy. In other words, you start off as a baby and then a toddler, and you move into preteen, teen, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Well, as you start to get older, your cells don't replicate as perfectly, and you just start to become more disordered. You're not as healthy and as fit looking as you were when you were 20, when you're 80. It just doesn't work that way. So the universe tends toward entropy, to increasing, which means actually less order, more disorder. You can look it up, study it. I don't want to belabor the point. The idea is that we're moving into that system, or should I rephrase that and say we're moving toward more entropy. So there's an infinite demand for money, because under the current system, the debt can never be repaid, since the interest to pay the debt needs to be created. Money represents a lot of things: stored energy, stored labor, security, future planning, retirement funding, lots of stuff. But most think of money as security for their future. With enough people see that they don't have any money, or come to realize that the money they have is actually fraudulent or not honest or deteriorating, or it's vaporizing, or it's not going to hold its value, then what you'll find is people start running to the precious metals. So if you've been ignoring the demand issues bearing down on supply, especially this year, then you've probably been confronted with empty shelves for months. In the future, we'll see that more and more. David refers to ammunition in this case, and that he shows you this empty shelves over here. So he says the ammunition basically has been sold out in many places. So don't be foolish and wait for this to happen for silver. Act on silver and gold for your financial insurance plan, maybe to help your retirement, maybe just for peace of mind, because the dynamics in silver have changed drastically from what they've been basically in the year that I've studied the market, as far as the amount of investment demand for silver. So we've looked at the YouTube channel. We've looked at the Twitter feed. If you're into LinkedIn, this is our LinkedIn presence. You can see several things. A lot of the videos are here. I do postings on LinkedIn, as you can see. Gives an overview. If you haven't seen the movie and you speak English, this movie here, The Four Horsemen, is something that you might want to watch. It's a very interesting movie about the system and the collapse of empire. So it's free. You can get it from those 2 clicks I just showed you if you're so inclined. It's won many, many awards. It was made several years ago. A lot of people that you're familiar with are actually in this movie. So that takes care of YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. Facebook, I just really am not very fond of this platform. There is a corporate Facebook presence. We don't post there very much. Yeah, I don't do any friends or any of that stuff on this. The girls in the Philippines take care of this for me mostly, and I have somebody that wants to, look at it. There's something there, but you're much better off at the other places I just showed you. So that's a pretty good overview of everything that we do for free. And then start getting into things that you pay for. There's the books here, which you can click on. This is the latest book that David Smith and I have done. It's called Second Chance, and it's a very good book. on how to actually keep big money from the coming move up in the precious metals. There's lots of techniques. The feedback on this book has been actually very, very good. And this is the Silver Manifesto. This was written prior to Second Chance. We do have international purchases here. Shipping is really very, very high on international. We actually lose money shipping the book, but there is some profit built into the book. So by the time you buy it and pay shipping, it's basically break even for us, which I don't really mind. If people want to buy it, they can. Of course, it's only in English right now. We did have some of the other ones translated, but there just hasn't been that big a demand for this book. However, it is available. We do make available consultations. Cost is here. Members get to consult half at a discount of 50%. So if you are a paid member, you can consult for $250 an hour rather than $500. So let me go ahead and take you in the members area briefly. So you come up here right below all these icons. We just went through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And then you just click the members, log in, and it will bring you into the members area. And it will greet you with your name. I'm a mastermind, as you can see here. And of course, it says you're logged in as David Morgan. So here's what I just said a moment ago. Consultations are half price for members. You can click that and then fill that out, and you can get a consultation for half the price. So the bulk of the main report is right here. So it's in this green. Current report is October. And as you can see, this is our product, our main product, of course. And this one's a 20-pager. I obviously won't read it all to you, but you can see that we have our editorial, company updates, all the companies we follow. Then we have blockchain, letters to the editor, the speculative, the portfolio, top tier, mid tier, and then there's a little bit of ads for the book. Now you can come down here and you can get into the archives. So if you go to the archives right here, you'll see them all here. So I'm going to go back to September 2020 and click that one and look at the September issue, which will come right up. And of course, you can adjust the size of it. And this one I just want to bring up some ideas about what's going on here in the banking world. So this is straight out of the report. I'm not making this up. There's a lot of people that are a month or two behind me. Not that that matters, and I'm not saying I'm ahead of anybody. I'm just telling you this is what I wrote in September. So what I like to talk about here is that we know, and I wrote a previous report all about the World Economic Forum. So this one talks about, regardless of the plan, excuse me, we know the World Economic Forum, which we reported previously, I just said, is looking at this entire event as the opportunity to reset the whole system. So that's key. And most people don't know, that aren't in the U.S., and many people that are not acquainted with this guy, Brian Brooks. But this guy was Coinbase's chief legal officer, but he resigned from there. And now he is overseer of the United States national banking system. Well, what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that the United States banking system and most of the others in the world are looking to go to some type of digital-backed currency. Now, a digital-backed currency is not a cryptocurrency. It's basically where there's no cash available and everything that you have to do is electronic. And everything that you do is traced, tracked, and taxed. There's no privacy on any financial transaction once it goes to a digital-only system. So I'm just going to read a few more paragraphs and close this out, but I just want people to know the most likely scenario would be for, so people say, well, if they go to all digital, does that mean that cryptos will be dead, or are they going to be outlawed or whatever? I doubt it. Here's what I wrote on that topic. I said the most likely scenario would be for competing cryptocurrencies to be available, but to make certain purchases, it would require the use of a government or bank-owned, really, because governments are under the banking system, as most of you know, So under a government or bank-owned digital currency for essential items such as your utility bill, grocery shopping, gasoline purchases, and any housing or rental situations. So in other words, you can have Bitcoin all over the place, but you won't be able to use Bitcoin to pay for housing, for utilities, for food, for diesel or gasoline, anything that's the main sustenance for a human being. In other words, food and energy taken out of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the inflation index. But you can use Bitcoin for, lots of things, and of course there will be crossovers where a shop owner a bakery, for example, might take, Bitcoin for any product in a bakery or stuff like that. But the government digital backed currencies, the digital currencies, not cryptos, the government ones, they're going to put their stamp on everything. And they're not going to give up power very easily. So I go on to write, therefore, one could be on a truly non-distributed ledger and need to convert to the Fed coin. I just call it the Fed con. This is for U.S., but it'll be global. And there'll be different countries that do this. China's in the lead here, by the way, and most of you probably know that. Since almost all cryptocurrencies start with a know your customer, the anonymity in the crypto world really is non-existent. Oh yes, there are ways to do it and be very private. You can go through spinners and tumblers and pay cash to get it and all that. And yes, you can. You can be private, but it's an effort and not many do it. Most just say, hey, here's a Coinbase type of situation, provide all kinds of information to verify they are who they are. And then they buy through that, and then they move on to the wallet. And yes, you can do some anonymous transactions with the cryptos. I'm not saying it's impossible. What I am saying is it's not nearly as private as most people believe it to be. So last paragraph I'll talk about, and then we'll close it out here. But what this means on this Know Your Customer is that many on this whole new rollout of the central bank digital currencies is that the masses of unbanked, they call them unbanked humans, are actually unknown to the banking system as it currently exists. And these people will have to join the system or they'll have no credit or any way to pay for anything. What this means is that there will be some type of DNA sampling that will be required for security, but essentially a way for the system to track everyone. In other words, many people on the planet, especially the young, will never actually have a bank account as we know it now. They'll simply comply to the new way of doing business and probably not give it a second thought, as many of them have never been without smartphones and already use them for almost everything. So that's the banker's dream. That's the direction we're being pushed. The only resistance that, there's lots of ways to resist, but from the monetary perspective, the only way to resist that I know of is holding physical gold and silver, maybe having some mining shares. Of course, you would be known by your brokerage account, maybe in the crypto world. And I think especially having some exposure to gold or silver or both backed cryptocurrencies that you can do peer-to-peer. Interesting times, my friends. I again will want to thank Jan Neist and Frank for inviting me to present. Hopefully you got something out of this lecture. And I appreciate every one of you. And may freedom ring, not just here, everywhere. It's David Morgan from themorganreport.com, closing out. So I hope you enjoyed the International Precious Metals and Commodities Show. And again, I'll repeat, if you're inclined to, get a hold of Jan if he wants. And you can send questions to him, and he'll forward them to me. And I'll go ahead and make a video. I can't do more than 20. I really have limited time, but both Frank and Jan have been so good to me for so many years. I just want to give back a little bit more. So, Edelmetall, go ahead, and I'll just take some of those questions. I'll answer them in a video for everybody, and I'll post it at the appropriate place and the appropriate time.